hello, good afternoon. Yeah, it is noon already. Welcome to the Stokastic.com MLB Live Before Lock. Apologies for the time change. Wasn't intentional. We had an issue with the data this morning, for running the projections and everything. We got it back up and running now. Everything looks good. It was important we took care of that. And no, I can tell you this much. The intent was not to screw anybody, Mike. I understand the frustration playing on FanDuel. It was because if we went ahead and ran the show, we'd have I would rather do the show at noon when I have everything updated, right? So we can at least get everything in on DraftKings and make sure that we have the best numbers and the best projections and ownership and the sims, then do an entire, 45 or so minute show with no data to work with. So anyway, glad you guys could join. Pete, what's up? All of you guys, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. We got a fun 5-gamer to talk about here on the early. You know what would be better, and it would save me a lot of frustration? Maybe DraftKings and FanDuel could just start running these slates at the same damn time. It is what it is, but whatever. Anyway, we're here. Robbie Ray, GPP GOAT today, L21. I actually ran a flash sale on Robbie Ray last week because I knew coming into this slate before we had anything updated that he was going to be ultra chalky. Yes, he was, and he still crushed. Morning, Steven. Glad to have all you guys here. Yeah, look, guys, I've said it a million times. Playing the chalk is not always a bad idea, right? It's not always a bad idea. I'd prefer to do it with pitching more than I would with bats because, still being the top stack, even when you're the best team, it's still tough, real tough. But as far as like a Cole Reagans against the White Sox, by the way, how about Matthew Liberatore yesterday? I told you when we dig into these numbers, we find some gems. Some people don't like digging through the numbers. They just want you to give them, force feed them lineups and plays and stuff. But when you start actually looking through numbers on some of these guys, oftentimes you're going to find things and they're going to end up looking much better than they did originally. L21, good morning. Thank you for hosting this show so early. It's noon here, man. I get up at 6. Unfortunately, I don't do that because I want to. I do that because I have to. But no, I'm glad to do this, man. I'm glad all you guys could join. If you don't mind, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Tone for your sins this fine afternoon or morning if you're on the West Coast or Midwest or Mountain Time. Either way, it's free to do so. It goes a long way, and I appreciate you guys for that. Genuinely. It helps me out, and it helps this show, and it helps the site. So if you appreciate the free content, for sure, at least you could do is hit us up with that like or the sub. Even leave a comment down below. So Tex, I can go anywhere for some guys' personal takes on a slate. I come here for the data. Appreciate you, Laffy. Yeah, absolutely, man. That's why we use this. Look, we use data, and then there are going to be times because with baseball, there's so much going on under the hood. I think more than any other sport, genuinely. I love football. It's my favorite sport to break down for DFS for betting. And sure, there's stuff going on under the hood, but with baseball, there's so much more going on under the hood than anything else from an analytics standpoint, being able to break down and try and digest all of that shit. So if we can go sometimes a little bit deeper on these shows, then guess what? We're going to do it. And that's going to unearth some good stuff from time to time. But let's dive into it. We got 5 games to talk about. Thank you for joining. Make sure to say what's up in chat. I'm reading this the whole time as we go along. And if you're not following me over on Twitter, Aloughy_D, LOUGHY_D, not just to take in the nonsense that I tweet, sometimes some valuable stuff, but also if you ever have questions, my DMs are open. You can always hit me up, Choke Hold'em, what's up, brother? I'm getting too much Chicago Cubs. I'll tell you what, the past couple weeks, there's no such thing as getting too much Chicago Cubs. Sure, they're going to have some bad games, but they've looked good. So let's go. 5 games, of course, 10 pitchers. I got to tell you, there are some spots that to me are probably good leverage spots. And then other spots where I'm genuinely surprised these guys are getting the ownership they are. One of them, as always, I don't know what it is. I don't love targeting some of these Houston pitchers. Framber Valdez, Ronald Blanco. There's a few guys that just don't do it. Hunter Brown's the one guy. You want to talk to me about Hunter Brown? That's my guy. Made me a lot of money last year betting because the books kept pricing him as a bad pitcher when he's actually fantastic and got off to a terribly unlucky start. But Framber Valdez against Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, 31% ownership here. Ben Brown, these are the top 3 owned pitchers. Ben Brown against San Francisco, 36% ownership. And then Sonny Gray, I looked at this last night before we had data. I was honestly just on the MLB app. I wasn't just scrolling the pitcher matchups. And I think any of us would have known Sonny Gray against Pittsburgh. We saw what Matthew Liberatore did yesterday, right? That guy dominated. 51.6%. That doesn't surprise me at all. But here's the crazy thing. Look at ownership. This is how we can try and figure out where the good plays are and where the value is, maybe where some leverage is, even on more expensive guys. You got 5 guys at 20+% ownership. Then you have Mitch Keller, Merrill Kelly, and Gunnar Hoglund, who was great for us on I think it was Friday. He was $4,000. He was minimum salary on Friday. That's why pricing matters so much, not just in betting, but in DFS also. And at 7K, that is a tough ask, right? Guy's got a 3.5K prop. He's going up against the Seattle team that is really just pulverized righties this season. And he had a great start in Miami against the Marlins. 6 innings, 1 earned on a solo shot, 7 strikeouts, no walks. But Gunnar Hoglund isn't exactly the type of guy that we should be running back now that his price point has come up $4,000 or $3,000 in the span of 1 start. I mean, sure, there's some pedigree, like former first-round pick in 2021. All of that stuff is nice. But at AAA, even this year in 30 innings, and last year in 130 innings, you're talking 23, 26%, so 24 or so percent, really, 24% strikeout rate. It's not terrible, but I like Seattle more than I like Gunnar Hoglund here. What I want to know from you guys before we get into the chalk, all right, because anyone can talk about the chalk. Of course, we still have to discern whether or not we want to get overweight on these guys, pretty much hold hands with the field, all of that, and we'll do it. But the question I have for you guys really is, are there any of these sub 20% owned pitchers today that make sense? Quinn Priester, 6,300 against against Houston. Kodai Senga at 8,800 against Arizona. They do not strike out much at all. He's the second highest priced pitcher on this slate. But at the same time, he's really good. The strikeout stuff has been fine. He just isn't allowing runs. And every metric on Kodai Senga suggests that this guy is just, a legitimate ace, even if he doesn't have, the most elite strikeout stuff in baseball. Sure, he's getting a little lucky, right? Like 85% strand rate, 294 BABIP though. But what I'm referring to specifically is the 1.38 ERA. Like, he's not going to finish the season with a sub-2 ERA. But you don't really need that. Then you have $6,500 Mitch Keller. He's cheap against St. Louis. And Mitch Keller, for all intents and purposes, is a good enough pitcher. He's perfectly fine. He's had a pretty tough stretch of matchups this season, too, if you go back and look. Philly, Atlanta, Cubs, Miami. He destroyed Miami. Baltimore, at Yankees, and then Cubs again. That's a gauntlet, man. Merrill Kelly against the Mets. So Kelly and Senga in this matchup. Kelly is very cheap, $7,200. And then Gunnar Hoglund. I think we can effectively say that Gunnar Hoglund probably isn't the guy we want to get to today. But I don't know. Kodai Senga seems interesting. Chokehold him. That is a good point, too. Pointing out that it's a watered-down lineup for Arizona. They're still not going to have a high strikeout rate. But when you've got Marte out of the lineup, That's significant. I mean, I don't really care all that much about Gabby Moreno, especially because you're getting, it's no surprise here, late game and then a day game. That doesn't mean much, but take Marte out of the lineup. That helps a little bit. Moreno doesn't do much for me. Arcathelza, Mitch Keller could be sneaky. I kind of thought the same thing. I mean, we know this. St. Louis does not strike out at a high clip against righties at all. It's like bottom 3 in baseball. But Mitch Keller is just really cheap. Really cheap. And, Arizona on the season, let me get righties in here. Just pulling up Fangraphs real quick. It's just super easy to navigate for us. Arizona on the season has been, excuse me, dominant against righties. 214 ISO. Striking out at the 15th highest clip, but 118 WRC plus, top 4. I'm sorry, Arizona, I'm talking about Senga. We can get to the Mitch Keller spot, but yeah, I could understand why we wouldn't get to a ton of Kodai Senga here. St. Louis, on the other hand, going up against Mitch Keller, they just don't strike out. So again, I'm not looking at any of these spots and saying, hey, we need to be getting to these cheap guys. I don't think you necessarily do. I just like to break a slate down that way if we can, right? I just want to be able to break a slate down in that sense. So, hold on, let me do something real quick. Pull it up here on the top pitchers tool. If you've got all of these guys down here getting very little ownership, I'm almost inclined to say, Yosef, I do that all the time, man. You run the main slate sim, and then you go, oh shit, I needed the early slate. I know. I wish I got to talk to them. We got to just default to early slate if it's before a certain time, right? If it's before the early slate goes off, just default to that for baseball, at least. I don't really think there's a ton of value in these guys that are low owned. So let's do this and look at our exposure in the sims. This will tell us a lot. All right. Wow. So if this is the case, and were we not, hold on a second. Robbie Ray, 21% against Chicago. Okay. Brian Wu, 22%. If we are getting all of these guys up top, look at our exposure to these 4 pitchers who are pulling a lot of ownership. Ben Brown, Sonny Gray, Framber Valdez, and Robbie Ray. What the Sims is telling us, what the tools are telling us. And you know what? From just a little bit of cursory research that we've done right here on the show, I don't think this is anything I want to change all that much. Do we really want to get to Hoagland or Keller in this spot, even at a discounted price point? Do we really want to get to a ton of Kodai Senga in a spot like this? He's $8,800. The only pitcher who's more expensive than him is Brian Wu. And the reason we're getting less of Brian Wu is because of the price points on these other guys, like Ben Brown and $8,200 Sonny Gray at home against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Framber Valdez at $8K, 30%. That always scares me, but I can understand it in this specific spot on a 5-gamer. And then Robbie Ray, $8,500. I don't love that matchup. Not going to pretend I do against the Cubs. They're a good baseball team right now. They're clearly exhibiting a lot of power. But Robbie Ray has strikeout stuff that, is hard to find at that price point. That's all. I will say, though, take a look at this, guys. The Chicago Cubs, 17.5% K rate against lefties this year, 10.9% walk rate. How many plate appearances? 349 and a 141 WRC plus. Shit. That's concerning. I look at that and it makes me want to play some Cubs bats. Honestly, with how well they've hit lefties, makes you want to play some Cubs. Of course, the wind is blowing in at 13 degrees, which is why this game is going to have, more interest in pitching and funnel us more to pitching, especially when Ray's got a 26% strikeout rate this year, right? If the wind was blowing out or even neutral wind in Chicago, what a difference that would make. But you've got a 7-run total. You have a 7-run total in this game. So Robbie Ray with the Chicago Cubs 4.1 run implied total and the San Francisco Giants 3.4 run implied total. 7-run total's really low here with those winds blowing in at Wrigley. So all of this context matters. All of it. Which is why $7,500 Ben Brown is going to look like one of the best plays on the slate. I know some of you guys liked him last start as well. I don't remember what he did. I think he was average or good. No, he was good. Milwaukee, yeah, six scoreless with 4 Ks. Prior to that, he got rocked by Philly. But, yeah, I mean, 7,500. Opponent has a 3.4 run implied total. I believe that's the lowest of any team on the slate. It is. It's even lower than the Pirates going up against Sonny Gray. It's lower than Milwaukee going up against Houston, Framber Valdez. So I can't say I'm surprised that you're going to get this Ben Brown exposure. Plus, while he's definitely struggled at times this year, 4.88 ERA, 3.83 xFIP though, solid, 380 BABIP, been a little bit unlucky. Not allowing any power. Didn't allow any power last year or the year before that. Sub 1 home runs per 9 for his career. 0.83 to be exact. If I can get a guy that has a career 26.8% K rate at the major league level at $7,500 with winds blowing in at Wrigley, you got to take it. You got to take it. And then the Sonny Gray spot. These are the two, I would say, regardless of ownership, these are the 2 best pitchers right now on the slate. And I have no reason to really refute that. Winds blowing in at 9 miles per hour from right field in St. Louis at Busch Stadium. It's only 68 degrees. Right? So, 68 is fine. It's just pretty much neutral weather. Robbie Ray is the one guy that's... Am I on an island here, guys, or does Robbie Ray concern you as much as Robbie Ray concerns me? Thomas Ryan says Cubs stacked for all the money. Jake DeWitt, Cubs stack and print. I think I'm with you guys. I think we have to be looking at these Cubs. Robbie Ray is one of the guys that it hasn't happened all that much this year, but look at his fly ball rate. 46% fly ball rate for Robbie Ray. Last year, he only pitched 30 innings, 30 and 2/3 innings, but even last year, 53% fly ball rate. If you're getting, and again, once again, I know the wind's blowing in at Wrigley, but they have crushed lefties. Whereas when you talk about a San Francisco team that just isn't very good, then you like the weather even more. So does Robbie Ray benefit from the fly balls here? Totally possible. Right? It's totally possible that the wind knocks them down. But San Francisco is a much less scary matchup here. Much less. They're essentially middle of the road in everything. So if I'm looking at if I'm looking at pitchers, the only guy right now that I'm getting less of that I think I'd be a little bit more interested in getting some of would probably be Brian Wu at 6.7% exposure that we have right now. We're definitely under the field on him by a wide margin. He is expensive, but he's been fantastic. And it's an A's team that it's a far cry from what they were last year in a good way. They're much, much better than they were last year from a power perspective. But, Wu's striking out 26% of batters. He doesn't walk guys. Everything about him suggests that he's as good as he's been. Look at his xERA, 2.65, 3.5 xFIP. Strand rate, 76%. BABIP's a little bit low, but it was last year and the year before too. 6.9% barrel rate. No home runs, really. The question is ultimately just, do we want to pay for Bryan Woo in this spot? And if your answer to this is no, I get it. Especially given that the Athletics are striking out at a low clip. Isn't that amazing, the turnaround you've seen on this Athletics team? Third lowest K rate in the league versus right-handed pitchers this year. It's crazy. I just keep coming back, I think, to the same answer that these guys, you know, particularly from me, are Ben Brown, Gray, and even Valdez are the ones that I like the most. Robbie Ray, I get it because that weather should help him today. But I also don't hate the Cubs. Really don't hate the Cubs at all. Merrill Kelly, Quinn Priester. If you guys had to play one of these guys I'm about to list off, right? Factor in ownership, matchup, factor in the price point. Merrill Kelly, Quinn Priester, Bryan Woo, Kodai Senga, Mitch Keller, and Gunnar Hoglund. You have to play one of these guys and get above the field, right? Just a little thought experiment here. Which one of these 6 guys is it going to be? Especially knowing that we're getting a ton of exposure to Brown, Gray, Valdez, and Ray. Because to me, I think the answer would still be Bryan Woo, only because of how good he's been and how much ownership is going to a similarly priced Sonny Gray and Framber Valdez. You know, they're $800, $1,000 separated. It's not that crazy. I think it would be Woo. But that doesn't mean that you have to get there. Yeah, Steve McGee, Woo. Roger, Woo. That's where I'm at as well. That's where I'm at. But Ben Brown, Gray, Valdez, and you know what? It's scary. But Robbie Ray, because the wins coming in, seven run total, only 4.1 run implied total for the Cubs. To me, that all makes sense. Now let's take a look at some bats here. This should be fun. Any predictions on what stacks are going to have the highest exposure? Because let's not ignore the fact that just because we're not getting to a lot of Senga or Woo or Keller, let's not ignore that these are good pitchers too. We're not getting to, it's not that we aren't getting to them because they're bad. We're not getting to them because of the price points and the matchups. Brandjoy said Mariners. You would think so, right? But I mean, if we're getting to a ton of Mariners and we're also getting to the chalk pitchers, then what does that say about the lineup builds? How are we getting that positively simmed ROI? Because you're not just going to get the chalkiest lineups rising to the top of these sims. The sim's job is to generate a contest, right? You see the contest generator up there. Actually, let me switch this for you. To generate a contest that as accurately as possible mirrors the field, right? So when you generate that contest and you see ownership, that's not you don't want to boost that ownership up to get more of them when you run the sim. If you boost that ownership up, what you're saying is that you think that player is going to be more owned than we're projecting them, because the contest generator is simply giving you what we think the field is going to look like. And then once we have generated that contest, now if you have a good representation of what that field should look like, that is where you can genuinely find leverage. And that's where, when you can run these tens of thousands of sims, now, if you know what to think about this, right? Deeply, if you know what the field looks like, then you can know where all of the spots are that you can get that leverage. So oftentimes you aren't going to see like a Ben Brown, Sonny Gray pairing with a Mariners stack unless we're doing something different elsewhere. And maybe it's like a weird 3-man secondary stack or something. So without further ado, I won't bury the lead on you fellas. And hey, you ever want to check these tools out for yourself? All of you guys who have DM'd me in the past couple of days since we started doing this, you know, I'm going to get right back to you and I'm going to give you a promo code that is going to with 100% certainty, make you happy that you reached out. So if you want to get access to these tools, of course, you can click the link in the description. You can check out all of the plans for yourself, right? Or you can sign up with the link join down there, sign up on any of those sports books, get the month for free or many months for free, depending on how many you sign up on. Just follow those 4 simple steps. But if you DM me at Loughy_D, LOUGHY_D, my DMs are always open. Just head over to Twitter or X and hit me up. Say, "Oh, I was watching on the show. You have that code for me," and I'll hit you with a code. We'll get you in. I'll get you in at an awesome price. Because anyone who's willing to reach out, I think, is actually willing to learn how these tools work and how to profit with them, right? Not everybody that just takes advantage of like a free week is going to do that. But if you're someone that's like, you know what, I want to try these tools, and you reach out, you're going to have a leg up on everyone else because you're going to take the time to learn how to use them. And they're pretty easy to learn how to use. So just DM me. I'll hit you with a code. I'll get you for Sims, by the way, for the Sims, for the top stacks, top pitchers, ownership projections, single lineup sim, late swap tool, all that stuff. Get you with a great code. So just hit me up in the DMs, and as this show's over, I'll get back to you. Plus, we got a great main slate today as well. And these sims cover every slate. See this main, early, afternoon, night slate, everything. So where is our most exposure coming to? It is the Houston Astros. A lot of exposure to the Astros. Wow. A lot of exposure. 30% 5-man stacks. 13% Seattle. 10% Athletics against Brian Wu. 7% Mets against Merrill Kelly. Interesting. A lot of times on these smaller slates, you don't see as many 5-man stacks, but a 5-game slate isn't that small. It's a lot different than a 3-game slate. But we are just getting a ton of Houston. An absolute boatload of Houston today against Quinn Priester. I can't say I'm terribly surprised by that either. Right? You look at this in the top stacks tool. 10% top stack probability, but 2.64 leverage score. And from an ownership standpoint, I knew we'd be getting somewhere that wasn't as popular as Seattle, right? We're still getting Seattle, but this is what I figured. Houston right now is the 6th most owned team in our projections. They also have the second highest value score in the top stacks tool. So I totally get that. Now, if you wanted to tamp down ownership a little bit or exposure on Houston, what you could do in the Sims is go to lineups, right? Check this out. Go to lineups. Let me unfavor these. Now, if you wanted to, you could always just go into exposure caps right here and click on stack exposure. And then you could knock down Houston stack exposure to like 15 if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that today personally, but I'm just showing you how you could do it. You can do the same on individual players. What I like to do is if I were to go in and set my uniques, 5 uniques here, let's say 5 uniques, and then favorite 150 again, I want to see what this does. See, now you're not getting those, because it's grabbing uniques as it goes down, and there aren't 5 uniques from these other lineups. If I go to exposures, what is my stack? Look how much that changes. It brings Houston down a ton. And it brings Seattle up, but it really just spaces everything out. On a 5-gamer, I'm not sure I want to do that. So I like to mess around with this and see if I can find a sweet spot. Maybe I go 3 uniques here and then go to exposures. Does this change it? Yeah, see, that's a lot more like it. You get 23% there. You're getting 9% 3-man stacks, 9% 4-man. You're taking probably a 10% off the top of that 5-man for Houston. You're getting more Seattle, which I don't mind at all. And then you're getting pretty much the same with the Athletics and the New York Mets. That's a great way to mess around with exposures without putting yourself into a hole and screwing things up. A lot of times people will go and they'll do these ROI boosts, they'll do the exposure caps, and now you're just getting crazy lineups. And you don't necessarily want to do that. Mr. Patrick, what's up, dude? Laffy's underselling it. I used the Robbie promo, last week for the Sims, made a few tweaks to the slate and exposures, came in second in the FanDuel Wiffle Ball with my first 150 set. Hell yeah, dude. Love it. Yeah. Truthfully, I don't try and oversell anything because I know people who use the tools and they use them the right way are going to love them. And you're not going to win every day. That's not how DFS works. But people that use the tools and ask questions and watch the tutorials, you're going to like it. And that's why I say, reach out to me, DM me, and I'll hit you with a code. That's awesome, though, Mr. Patrick. I know you hit us up on Twitter, so congrats on that, dude. All right, let's take a look at the lineups themselves. What do you say before we get out of here? And then we'll look at some home runs, too. So here's a Robbie Ray, Sonny Gray lineup with a 5-2 Houston. Yep. This is what I expected to see, kind of one not as popular team in these popular pitching combos. Ben Brown and Merrill Kelly with a Houston, Seattle. So, right, you get Seattle in there, but then definitely a lesser-owned Merrill Kelly. Ben Brown and Quinn Priester, again, popular Seattle, less popular Arizona. This speaks to exactly what we knew. Two popular pitchers, Valdez and Ben Brown with a 5-2 Houston, Pittsburgh. 5-2 Houston, Arizona with Gray and Brown. Yep. And again, Arizona two-man, clearly not going to be popular against saying a Pittsburgh two-man against Gray, clearly not going to be popular. This is why being able to generate the contest and mirror what we expect to see when this contest locks, and then simulating it against the field all of these times, this is where it comes in play. Because most people hand building are going to have no prior knowledge of this. They're going to jam in Sonny Gray and Ben Brown, right? And then they're going to play like a 5-man Seattle and then load up on another popular stack for the 3-man or a 5-2-1. You know? That's what's going to happen. Trey, how about them Cowboys? Yeah, I mean, isn't it just in typical Cowboys fashion to take on a true head case? Now, I will say, George Pickens, you know this. You guys have watched my NFL shows. You know, George Pickens is one of my favorite players in the league. I think he's I think he's super talented. Catch radius is insane. Contested ball, amazing. But he's also nuts. And if a team like Pittsburgh is willing to cut bait, and they've been able, I mean, they were able to keep Antonio Brown's eccentricities under wraps for many years. I don't know, man. We'll see how it works out for them. We'll see how it works out. Self-made, I got to hit you up to try it again. Definitely need to learn how to use it. I was so confused. Dude, hit me up. Like I said, DM me. Hit me up. But yeah, George Pickens is the man. He's just crazy. They do, Emwald. They also are very good at drafting insane guys, right? But when it works, it works. Anyway, you guys can see where these builds are coming in. You can't tell me you don't find something like this valuable, even if you're not, and I'm not talking me, I'm talking about the tools. Even if you're not a paid sub, just being able to sit down, watch this show, and kind of see where maybe the leverage comes into play. And the leverage is clearly coming into play on this slate by saying, you know what? We are going to play we're going to play a lot of these chalky pitchers, but we're going to get different with our stacks. And we're going to get different with some of these 2- and 3-man secondary stacks when the rest of the lineup is chalky. To me, invaluable stuff. Because these are a lot of things that, whether we think we can or can't, figuring this stuff out on our own, especially with baseball, a crazy volatile, crazy high variance sport, it's really not easy at all. So that's the way we do it. Let's take a look at some homer props before we go. I love doing this. You can use this from a DFS perspective. Here's what I'd say too. From a betting standpoint, all we care about for home runs most of the time is price. If one is 6-1 and on another book it's 8.5, plus 850, we wanted it at plus 850. And sometimes you might not even love the spot, but if we say the true odds are plus 750 and we get it at plus 850, guess what? That is objectively a good bet. You know, that is objectively a good bet. So let's see. Yeah, Trey. Le'Veon Bell too. Remember the Le'Veon Bell holdout? And then he just wasted away after that. They've been pretty good about it. Deontay Johnson's an incredible example. Although, I don't know. I think having to play with Bryce Young through the first few weeks of that season may have just driven him off the deep end. Who knows? He had a few decent games with Andy Dalton. And then Dalton got in that car accident, and then everything went to shit after that. Chase Claypool. Can you believe that they got, sorry, you guys don't want to hear me talk about football, but can you believe, yeah, well, Martavis Bryant just wanted to smoke weed. I don't think he was like, you know, inherently bad or insane. I think he just wanted to smoke. Chase Claypool, they got back the same round. They got back a second round draft pick for Chase Claypool. Steal, what a massive steal that no one talked about. Horrible trade for the Chicago Bears. But let's see here. Jeremy Pena. Here, perfect example. Plus 800 on FanDuel. We say the true odds are plus 692. This live odds tool, guys, by the way, on OddsShopper is free. Use it. Use it to bet. Use it for DFS. This is 100% free. Plus 550 on ESPN. Sharp book like Circa, it's 6-1. Plus 450 on C. I'm going to bet this right as soon as this show ends. I'm betting Jeremy Pena. Massive edge there. Massive edge. I can't believe, too, that FanDuel usually has longer odds before the lineups come out, because even if a guy doesn't start, they can end up, you know, it's still going to count if they have a plate appearance. But dude, that's crazy. Leading off plus 800. All of these other books have him. Yeah, we're betting that. Adolis Garcia moved down in the order, but still plus 540 on FanDuel today. Any others for these games? And by the way, here you go. Here it is. Jeremy Pena plus 800. 13% edge there. 13% edge. Pretty nice. Pretty nice on Jeremy Pena. Garcia looks really good at plus 540 as well. Andrew Vaughn plus 830 today. These are night games. Use this tool, guys, for everything. Like, I use it for strikeouts every single day. You should too. I love being able to see not only the strikeouts, but to see, hey, have some of these moved considerably? Should I be looking to get away from particular spots because sharp money is moving these numbers, right? Check that out. See this in the data drop down on like Simeon Woods Richardson? You can see where these books are moving on him. You know, sharper book like Penny. On the over for strikeouts, they're actually moving away from the over. Shane Baz being another one. Use this tool. And if you want to get access to the more robust tools, the far more powerful portfolio EV tools, links in the description. Your first week is free. I would always recommend checking it out, because if you hate it, you just cancel before your week is up. Don't think just because you're a DFS player that you shouldn't be betting too. It's all the same. It's all about us making money, and it's all about finding expected value. You know, positive ROI spots, finding an edge. That's why we use the Sims. It's why we play DFS, and it's why we do this show. It is the same thing with betting. When you're finding a positive edge, you're going to win money. I personally don't give a shit where my money comes from. I can make money in the most boring way possible. If I'm making money, it doesn't matter to me where it's coming from. So with Portfolio EV, where you get all of these bets sent straight to your phone every single day with push notifications, and then you can mass enter all of them right into your bet slip. Try it for a week. Your first week's 100% free. Links down there in the description. Check this one out. Robbie Ray on over strikeouts. What about under strikeouts? How is this moved? Okay, so FanDuel's actually moving away from his over. Penny's moving big time away from the over. They moved after FanDuel here. DraftKings moved away. Everybody moved away from the over on Robbie Ray. What about Ben Brown? What about the over on Ben Brown? Hasn't moved. Have any of these booked moves? They moved away and they came right back. Penny came right back. That looks good on Robbie Ray. Gunnar Hoglund, 3.5 strikeouts. Merrill Kelly here. Kodai Senga, 4.5 Ks. Any movement here on Kodai Senga? See why this stuff is helpful? This hasn't moved all that much. Jake, Ray's going to have 6 walks in the first inning and not come back. Yeah, he might. Honestly. He might. All right, I'm going to go place this Pena home run bet. Do it with me. And if it hits, we're going to come back tomorrow and talk about it. Should have another early live before lock. Hey, appreciate you guys. Hit me up on Twitter, Lafayette_D, LOUGHY_D. I'll check my DMs right after the show. I'll hit you with a good promo, get you in. Good code, discount code. Use the Sims. Use the top. Every tool we have. Every single tool we have will get you in. And I'll help you. And we'll shoot you over some tutorials, walk you through the process. Guys, enjoy this slate. This is a fun one. Really fun one. Let's have ourselves a day. Let's get some bets in the process as well. And I will see you back here tomorrow on Live Before Lock. Peace.